watching NBC10 Live at Issue.
And back on Live at Issue with Council members Bill Greenlee, and Brett Mandel, currently a candidate for city controller, but who for the last 5 years or so has been a leading community voice for tax cuts and tax and government reform in Philadelphia with his organization, Philadelphia Forward. Mr. Mandel, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And let's start with wage taxes frozen, at least the cutting frozen. The property taxes apparently going up, subject to negotiation. Sales tax possibly going up, subject to the state and negotiation. What do you make of that?
Well, I'll tell you what, Philadelphia has a long-term challenge to reduce our tax burden, which is tops in the nation under some counts, and to increase the quality of life in Philadelphia, which is not where it should be. Right now, we're going in the wrong direction in both accounts. We're making cuts to services that people count on, and we're looking to increase the cost to pay for those cuts. So Philadelphia needs to find more ways to look at the government, reduce the cost of living and doing business in Philadelphia. Absolutely. Philadelphia has to audit every single agency every single year to find the waste, the fraud, and the abuse. We're not doing that. We have plenty of places, as we've seen in the first round of budget cuts.
Why wouldn't we do that?
You know why? Because too many people are getting away with too much in government that they're happy with, and the people who are in charge of looking for the waste and the fraud aren't interested in uncovering where all the waste and the fraud is.
What, because of who got them to where they are?
In Philadelphia, as you know, everybody is scratching everybody else's back. So when we look at where do we find the waste, where do we find the abuse, we're not looking at many cases. City council should be making much deeper cuts in their budget. Across the board, a lot of the political agencies in the city should be making much deeper cuts.
So, are you talking about pinstripe patronage? Are you talking about legal contracts, no-bid contracts? What are you talking about?
There are too many no-bid contracts. Our cost for outside lawyers that the city hires is too high. We have all of the agencies in the city that are run by political entities are not making deep enough cuts. These are real problems.
Councilman, let me ask you about that. There is this perception out there, you see it on the national scale in particular, that average working people are being asked to bear a lot of these costs. They're the ones that have to pay the sales tax. They're the ones that are, seeing their wage taxes frozen. They're the ones that have their property taxes up when the real estate market is down. They're the ones that are having to take pay cuts or lose their jobs. And yet, even though we see law firms downsizing, are the wealthier people in this city not doing their fair share?
I don't know if they're not doing their fair share. We certainly want to keep the costs for the average person down as much as possible. But I think we also have to realize we have a real budget problem. What another member of council has called an economic tsunami, and it's hitting all over the country. We don't want to make these cuts. I respectfully disagree with Brett. I think his analysis is a little overly cynical. I think we're trying to do our due diligence in there. I believe we have worked, speaking of audits, with the city controller and some of the audits he's done to make some of the recommendations we're making and the mayor is making to try to do some of these cuts. But it's not as easy as it sounds.
Well, personally, I agree with Brett's premise, and that is that there's still a lot of inefficiency in city government. I personally have proposed going paperless as a city government, which will, I believe, save $200 million a year once fully implemented, which is the amount of the entire current yearly 5-year deficit. It adds up to $1 billion over 5 years. So we can find savings in city government without raising taxes and without cutting services. We can have a leaner, meaner, more efficient government. It's possible. The fact that we could do $1 billion worth of cuts without it really affecting most people in the city of Philadelphia, to me, means that there's still more there.
If the city should go to the unions this year, the 4 big city unions, or even just 2 of the city unions, the white-collar unions, and say, you're not getting pay raises at all, and you have to put more in for health care. Basically, in other words, you're going to be making less money at the end of the day when you go home. Are they going to the law firms in this city and saying, what you say you have to charge for this contract, take 10% off? Is that happening? That's not happening, is it?
Honestly, I don't know how the law department's being run.
I mean, do you think it's happening?
There's indications that another administration is trying to cut down on those costs. Yeah, I can't speak specifically on that. They would be better suited to do that.
Why isn't council concerned about this? Why doesn't council?
We have been. We have raised those questions. We have raised those questions.
But can you
We've raised questions on a.
I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. I'm not saying it should be penalized, but there's a sense of fairness and equity that is a question.
The answer to the question is and that's one of the reasons that I proposed my library bill. The answer to the question is we cannot mandate things like that. Under the strong mayor form of government that we have, we basically can't tell the administration how to do their job. We can appropriate it, and that's what we do.
We'll be right back. More on NBC10 Live at Issue in a moment. Stay tuned.
You're watching watching NBC 10 Live at Issue.